happy World International Women's Day. It's a very exciting day, and so I'm very happy to be doing this Instagram live. And I'm just going to put my glasses on because I want to connect with Karina, who's going to share the Instagram live with me. So I'm just going to wait and for her to join, and then we can get going. So I hope that you're all having a good day. It's a very positive day. There's lots going on, actually, a lot more than there has in other years, which is really exciting. So let's just see if she's asked to join. Can't see her yet, so we'll just see what happens. Sorry about this. I'm just waiting for her to join. There's lots of you that are joining, which is great. Let me just see. There's quite a few waving going on, which is great as well. Let me just see. I hope Karina's listening, and whether she can just invite herself to join. I can't see her here. Ah, here we go. So I'm just... Thanks for waiting. Let's see what happens. Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, a few technical difficulties. I was watching, but
That's all right.
I wasn't
It's
able
always
to.
the worst bit of an Instagram live, to be honest, but we're here now. It's fine. So, happy International Women's Day.
To you, and it's so lovely to meet you on video.
Yeah, no, it's great. So we actually met. I met you first in London, actually, didn't I? Outside Houses of Parliament, and we had just had a very exciting day where we were announcing about HRT being available for year prescriptions. But it was just Carolyn Harris, the MP, did the most amazing work, but this was just a hook really to get menopause starting to be talked about even more in higher places, which it is. People are starting to listen, but there's a lot more that needs to be done, isn't there?
Definitely. It was such a powerful day, full of energy, and everyone really happy, really fighting for what we were supposed to be getting, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here today. It's a very exciting day. It's a very exciting day for everyone, but certainly for half the population. But we have a big impact on the other half of the population. But the hashtag for today is hashtag break the bias. And actually, there's a massive bias and taboo when it comes to the menopause, isn't there? And, you know, for those of you watching, you can see that Karina is a lovely she's far younger than me. And some of you might be thinking, well, she doesn't look like a menopausal woman, because most menopausal women, when you Google them, have grey hair or they're elderly, and you certainly aren't. So are you able to share with us just why you're talking about the menopause, and if indeed you are a menopausal woman?
Yes, of course. And yes, I am a menopausal woman. I was diagnosed with premature menopause at the age of 15, even before development. So I never really went through puberty naturally. So I've been experiencing symptoms since the age of 10, 11. And I wasn't really aware of the correct diagnosis until only a few months ago. So that's also very interesting.
How
I was
old are you
given a
now?
very long... I'm 26 now.
Right. Yeah, so you're still really young. So that a lot of people, we talk about 1 in 100 women having POI, premature ovarian insufficiency, which is early menopause. So 1 in 100 under the age of 40. So therefore, a lot of people think, well, that's women in their 30s. And of course, you're proving it's not, is it?
It's not, yeah. And there's so much misinformation. I guess doctors could have helped me a lot better had they known that this is actually possible, and had just society known this in general. So I think, yeah, I've met quite a few women that have gone through a similar situation, and they felt similarly sort of unheard and generally not helped in the best possible way, for a long time at least.
And did you find that you had to get help yourself, or did the healthcare professionals signpost you to the right help, or was a lot of it coming from you?
It really was independent research. So after a long time, we decided to go and see a specialist. That's when I was 15. And obviously I got some sort of a diagnosis then, but I was put on the birth control pill for about 10 years. And all the symptoms that I've been experiencing in the past 10 years were literally anything from breaking bones to anxiety and sort of mood changes, acne, all sorts of things that are very much connected to hormones. And I was seen by specialist reproductive endocrinologists, by orthopedics, by cardiologists, and no one ever linked my diagnosis with these symptoms. So I just thought I was really unlucky, just had all sorts of problems really. And eventually, yeah, just independent research led me to figure out that actually what I have is really the same as the menopause, just a little bit earlier.
And so you're taking some hormones.
Yeah, so I'm on HRT, a good dosage now, actually, thanks to the Newson Health Clinic. But I've never felt this good all my life, really. I feel like a child again, because the last time I felt good, actually, I was probably 10. So, yeah, it's been really strange to feel so creative and so energetic again after all this time. So, yeah, it's really important to get the hormones right, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's quite hard, isn't it? Because as you just said, younger people often need higher doses of estrogen. I don't know whether you're on testosterone as well, but that can have a benefit too.
Yeah, so I started testosterone last summer, and I think I immediately felt a difference. And also increasing my estrogen really made me feel like myself again.
Yes.
Although it's really hard because I didn't know what feeling good was like. So yeah, for me it was a bit more difficult, but I guess for someone who remembers how, you know, how good they were feeling before, really just increasing dosage until they feel that way can be, yeah, really, really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that is very hard because most of us don't know what normal is, who's normal, and so we can't compare ourselves to others. And often with the menopause, symptoms come on very insidiously. So if someone has, for example, their ovaries removed, then the symptoms can be very harsh because they can come on very quickly. But often we just adjust and acclimatise. So you often get used to maybe doing less exercise or sleeping in a different way or thinking a bit slower. And there's a lot of women out there who take a less stretched job, for example. So quite a few people have said to me, well, of course I'm menopausal, so I wouldn't expect to be promoted, or I wouldn't expect to have this high-powered position. And so they think it's because they are old, even though they might only be in their 50s, or they think it's just the way they're built, the way they're, and for you, you wouldn't know necessarily that you had that potential to feel better. I really worry that women are not being listened to, obviously, but also that women are being denied their own hormones. You know, we're not here talking about having some mood-altering drug or some class A drug that we're buying from a street corner to make us feel better. We're talking about improving our own physiology with our own hormones. So it doesn't seem right, does it, that it is such a battle?
Yeah, 100%. And it just feels like I need to convince my GP constantly, or I need to really make a case for my own health rather than just say, I have hypothyroidism, which I also have, and doctors seem to understand quite easily that they just need to replace my missing hormones for that. So yeah, I think it's just the whole of society really that doesn't talk about this enough, so no one really is aware of it as much as they should.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it, having the analogy with underactive thyroid gland, and obviously some women need different doses of thyroxine to others. So have you ever had any problems getting thyroxine from your doctor?
No, it's been the easiest one, and actually I also have a medical exemption because of it.
Yes, of course you do. So, and so for people in the UK, we have this rule really that if someone has an underactive thyroid gland, not only does your thyroxine become free, but all your prescriptions come free, don't they?
Exactly. So that was incredible validation when I moved to the UK, because I just felt I was recognized for something, although it wasn't my main problem, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
That felt really good. And I think, yeah, obviously I've never had any problems checking my TSH levels, nor getting my prescriptions. So yeah, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, and so are you able to get the right dose of estrogen and testosterone on the NHS?
Yes, so it's a little bit of a difficult one, because obviously through your clinic, so privately, I've been advised a specific dosage, but the NHS isn't 100% sure about that. So yeah, I've had to try sort of reducing the dosage and see how I feel, but I've not felt good in the same way. I've actually, all my symptoms have slowly come back. So I'm now battling to get them to accept the dosage that was prescribed to really just feel normal. But it seems again that there's lots of misinformation and potentially not enough research in younger women, and sort of correct dosages, and so there's a lot of worries from their end that this may cause huge risks, which probably doesn't actually.
So yeah, so let's just talk about that for a minute. So risks. This is risks of having your own hormones back. And someone told me actually yesterday that she'd read that estrogen was a carcinogen, i.e. it caused cancer. And this was someone from a cancer charity, I won't name which one, but actually, if estrogen was really dangerous, say we've read information and we've misinterpreted it, and it was very dangerous, but we didn't know how to explore this further, what we would then use is a bit of common sense, and we might say, well, let's look and see who are the healthiest people, which ages are people healthier? Are they healthier in their 20s and 30s, or are they more healthy in their 50s and 60s when they're menopausal without hormones? And I think my 10-year-old could answer which group of women are more healthy. And you could say, well, that's because they're younger, well, that's because they exercise more, or that's because they maybe eat better. Actually, I don't think many 20-year-olds eat better than, usually we eat better as we get older because we understand the importance of good nutrition. And even with exercise, I think we exercise well actually when we're older if we can. So the big difference is often hormones, and then we look at pregnant people, and so women who are pregnant often have estrogen levels in their thousands, sometimes above 10,000. When we give hormone replacement therapy in the clinic, we usually have levels in the hundreds, sometimes around 1,000, so a lot lower than pregnant women. Pregnant women often feel the best they've ever felt. They often feel really healthy. They're less likely to have diseases. They're less likely to have infections. And part of that is because they've got high estrogen. So therefore, common sense will tell us that hormones are safe. But we also have the beauty of science. And we have research that shows that women who take HRT are healthier. And then there's some great work, I don't know if you've read it, by someone called Walter Rocker in America. And what he's done is looked at women with POI, so early menopause, younger women who have had their ovaries taken out. So as you might know, if you're listening and watching, that women who have their ovaries taken out become menopausal straight away. Of course they do, because they haven't got their ovaries. And so what he's done is looked at any diseases these women get and compared them to women who have still got functioning ovaries. And he's found that the incidence of all diseases increase, even diseases such as psychosis, liver disease, COPD, kidney failure, even drug addiction can increase with women who have a forced early menopause. And then there's other work that shows that women who have their ovaries removed early menopause, have a lot higher risk of developing dementia. They also are more likely to die. There was an article from some research in the 1950s, so a long time ago now, showing that women who had an early menopause and didn't have hormone replacement, actually 80% of them were dead by the age of 70, compared to people who weren't taking HRT. So we know how important estrogen is, and it does seem so unfair that there's this battle, like you say, there's this misunderstanding. And I think it's because healthcare professionals, but also women as well, and men, have sort of grown up the last 20 years just being told, no, 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 HRT is so bad. And we forget the common sense, we even forget the science. We're looking for anything that confirms how bad it is. So this confirmational bias we're seeking all the time. And the media hasn't helped, because it will only show bad news stories about hormones.
Yeah, it's terrifying actually, and yeah, I've realized now speaking about it, lots of my friends and family as well also didn't know much. You know, it's and thought of estrogen as this really scary thing, rather than actually something that's making my life so much better.
Absolutely. And so estrogen obviously is important, but it's having the right dose, and young women, as I've said, often need higher doses. But testosterone as well. Did you know much about testosterone over the last 10 years or so?
No, not at all. I was never offered it. I never knew I needed it replaced, really. I didn't know it was such an important one. But as soon as I started it, I realized that if I forget it, even one day, my brain fog comes back, my energy levels are really, really low, and just generally my mood as well and my sleep are worse. So it's just it has a huge impact. But I think because I've not known, you know, that I could have the option to have it, and I've lived without it for so long, I just, you know, assumed that was me, you know, feeling a little bit more tired and sleeping less well, and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so testosterone, for those of you that are listening, is produced by our women's ovaries, and we actually produce about 3 to 4 times more testosterone than estrogen. And so you could argue that, or I could argue, that testosterone is more important than estrogen. Of course, both hormones are important, but we have testosterone receptors on cells all over our bodies, but especially our brains. So this effect that you're saying on your sort of your mood, your energy, your concentration, your sleep, your stamina, is really underestimated actually. And most of the studies that have been done have actually been done looking at libido. And I don't know how you feel about that as a menopausal woman. I honestly believe, and I know how important libido is, but I think we are more than just sex objects, aren't we? So I think it's actually very distressing and upsetting that the evidence and the studies have just been focusing on libido. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's very close to the sort of focus on fertility as well. Like, of course, that's one side of my illness, if you like, but it's really not the only thing that I should be kind of focused on, or doctors should be able to help me with. And I think, yeah, it's been a very similar situation. If it has to do with fertility or something that could affect someone else potentially, then obviously, yeah, they can help. But if it's just affecting my quality of life, then that doesn't seem to be as important to them.
Yeah, and that's so important, isn't it? But it's also looking at your future health as well. And I think the problem is a lot of people think about the menopause as something that causes symptoms, usually hot flushes, and something that's transient that we will just transition through. They don't think about the bigger picture. They don't think about the hormone deficiency that lasts forever. They don't think about the health risks, and they also don't always understand the myriad of symptoms that can occur, and that they can change, can't they, all the time. So each day can be quite different, and all our other hormones work together. So your thyroxine doesn't work in isolation to your sex hormones, which doesn't work in isolation with your stress hormones, so your cortisol and adrenaline and everything else as well.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? Because it feels like we're just taken as you know, each hormone is just one single thing to get right, but there's so much to get balanced really, and just, yeah, trying to understand each person's history, I guess.
Yeah,
Because everyone will have
absolutely.
a different.
And so testosterone in the UK currently, as you know, isn't licensed for women. We used to have a patch that was available, and then the drug company stopped making them, and then they withdrew the license, not for any concern. And so I think it's absolutely horrendous and ridiculous and barbaric and outrageous and all the other adjectives that I can think of, that we are not allowed, as me as a healthcare professional, we don't have a licensed product for women in the NHS to give women. And I've already said that we produce more testosterone than estrogen. How has it come to 2022 that women are having to fight for their hormone? And I know there's a lot of people out there that just cannot access testosterone.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. I mean, even the existing options that there are, I mean, I'm on this gel, which is a male preparation, so I need to use half a pump. It's really hard to get the right dosage. Like, I know that every day I'm putting a slightly different amount on, because it's basically impossible to get the exact, you know, same amount each day. And it just feels, you know, it just feels silly. You know, it's one of these things that I'm sure could be fixed really easily. And especially all menopausal women potentially needing this. It's just absolutely ridiculous that, you know, we've not looked after them. Like, just the whole system doesn't seem to care about it. So I think we just need to really speak about this more. Like, obviously you're doing an amazing work, but it's really down to everybody, even within their families and friends, to really just, yeah, just break the stigma, just talk about it, if they're going through it, if they know anyone. And I think this will really change things, because if it's just a few people here and there,
Yeah.
you know, nothing's really
No, I
gonna
suppose.
move, you know, just.
And so Kate Muir, some of you might have known, she's got the most amazing book, and there's a banner of her book in Leicester Square today that Amazon has done, which is phenomenal. But she talks about this revolution, and I think it's about us as women getting together and really making a noise. And you're absolutely right, it's completely not fair that women aren't allowed their own hormone back. But actually, as a healthcare professional and a menopause specialist, if I'd met you 10 years ago, I wouldn't have known that we produced testosterone. I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with you, because I didn't know. No one told me. I didn't learn growing up. Wasn't told it at school. I wasn't told it at university. I wasn't told it as a postgraduate. I wasn't told it by any of my gynecologists who gave me 10 minutes of menopause education. I didn't read about it in normal journals. I didn't read about it in books. It was only actually, I sat in a clinic with Professor John Studd, who sadly died last year, who was a real guru, a real menopause leader, really. And he did a lot of very inspirational work in the 80s, but people hated him for it. And I sat in his clinic and I saw him prescribe testosterone. And I said, gosh, what are you doing? I didn't know. And he said, Louise, it's so obvious, you know. And he talked a lot of common sense medicine, explained how the testosterone was produced by the ovaries. And then it ignited my passion to understand and to read. And then the more you read, the more you hear, the more you talk to experts, the more actually you learn from people who do prescribe it and see this effect. But actually, there's a lot of people out there, even very esteemed menopause specialists, who still don't believe there is an effect with testosterone. I've been told time and time again that me talking about it is just a placebo effect. And I find that really quite horrendous, because I'm not sure it is a placebo effect.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not, and it may not work for everyone. You know, there's lots of preparations out there. I've spoken to lots of women who may not have found the right one yet, but surely it's not a placebo effect. And it's just really sad that also medical professionals aren't given the right support and, you know, sort of education, because if they don't get that, obviously they can't help anyone.
Yeah.
It's, yeah,
And certainly, you know, there might be some people watching that think, oh, I've read that HRT is amazing, and I'm not finding that myself. You know, I'm on HRT and I'm really not feeling it. And there are two reasons often for that. One reason is that they're not on the right dose or type. You know, you've already said lowering your dose worsens symptoms, so it's quite clear you need to increase your dose. But some people might have clinical depression, or they might have another condition that's causing their symptoms. So it's very important that these are looked at in parallel. But if someone thinks it is related to their hormones, then absolutely, as women, we should be able to receive our own hormones in the same way that you can receive thyroxine. Now, I know in some areas there's a real difficulty in obtaining testosterone. A lot of GPs aren't even allowed to prescribe it. But I think that will change, because testosterone is mentioned on the NICE guidance, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence guidelines. We're very clear that we are allowed to prescribe testosterone to women who have reduced sexual desire. You see, it's about libido, despite being on HRT. So there is a way of getting around it, and I think as a healthcare provider, if somebody is saying you can't prescribe something that's on the NICE guidance, then that's a red flag actually, and I would be very uncomfortable refusing. We have, as you know, through my not-for-profit Newson Health Research and Education, we've developed an education program, and we've made it free so that people can download it and learn from it. And we've got a whole module on testosterone prescribing with links to guidelines and links to the evidence. So if any of you are watching this and you're really struggling, then I would really suggest to your healthcare practitioner, whether it's a GP or a nurse or a pharmacist, for them to download that and then challenge their local CCG even why they're not allowed to prescribe something that actually is very safe and has very few risks. Everyone talks about side effects with testosterone, but actually if you're just replacing the missing amount, then it's very difficult actually to get systemic side effects with testosterone.
Yeah, and I think things like a little bit more hair in the region where you rub the gel in is, you know, is definitely manageable. Like it's something that's definitely worth,
it's
you
a
know,
small
feeling
price
strong
to pay,
and
isn't
happy.
it? Yeah. So some people get hair
Yeah.
where they rub it. So we usually say rub it on the outer part of the thigh, or even on the buttock area where we don't have hair follicles. But women don't tend to have facial hair or systemic side effects because we're just replacing, and someone like you might have never really produced testosterone, and so it's very interesting hearing how your brain has really come alight again with the right hormones.
Yeah, and it's really everything from just building muscle mass again. Like that's really strange, but I've always practiced lots of sports, and I've always been really skinny and potentially really weak as well. And you know, all of a sudden I can actually grow muscle. I mean, not huge, you know, but just feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And it's just strange just to see my body developing. At this age, you know, I should have probably had lots of these effects about 10 years ago. So yeah, it's really allowing, yeah, body and mind to feel as good as they can, really.
Yeah, I mean, I dream a lot about how we can allow women to have their hormones back. But I do think, what would the world look like if every woman that needed hormones had them back? How would women be? How do you think leaders of the different countries would be? How do you think politicians would be? How do you think business leaders would be? Do you think the world would look different, Karina?
100%, yeah. I can just think of my mum, for example, when I was growing up, obviously my role model, and she definitely would have benefited from HRT, and she didn't know, obviously, that was even an option. So, yeah, just thinking how my personal life would have been different with her feeling better, and obviously thinking every woman in my mum's situation feeling so much better, that would just be incredibly powerful, and I'm sure women wouldn't have to leave the workforce, they wouldn't have to give up on their dreams or sort of choose one or the other between families or careers or whatever it is. Like it would just really be equal. Like we would, I think that's the one thing that would get us there really, if our health allowed us to, and that's literally just probably a lot of it is due to HRT.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I thought the opposite, actually, in that my mother does take HRT and she still works. She'll kill me if I tell you how old she is, but I'm 51, and so she's quite a bit older than that. But she still works, and she was widowed in 1979, so she's brought up 3 children on her own. She's managed to keep her job. She examines speech and drama for London, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. She's very, very independent. Of course, I don't know whether it's HRT or not, but I look at her sometimes and think, what would she be like if she hadn't taken HRT? And actually, she was very lucky. She went to go and see a doctor in the early 80s. So this was far before WHI came out. And she just said, look, I can't work as a teacher. I'm really struggling and I'm tired. And she didn't have any sweats or flushes, but she was also feeling quite low. And I don't know how it happened, but the doctor saw her and said, right, you need to take these tablets, because they were all tablets then. I gave her a prescription for HRT. She didn't know what it was. There was no balance app, there was no website, there was no information. She just took it as a dutiful patient. And within a few weeks, she started to feel better. So she said, this is great. So she has lived through the WHI. She's lived through many, many, many doctors trying to take her off HRT. And she will not come off it because she knows about the long-term health benefits, but she also knows it's enabling her to work. And so I do look at this powerhouse of my mother and think, goodness, I'm very grateful for that doctor, whoever he or she was, many, many years ago. But it's quite something to ride through this storm of all this media telling us, and even medical press actually telling us how dangerous HRT is. But we're coming round. We've got good evidence showing how safe HRT is. We're increasing information all the time. I don't know whether you've got the Balance app, but you're aware of it, aren't you? So.
Yeah, of course I have the Balance app. I only forget about it when I'm feeling good, which is a good thing. But it's been so useful. I didn't even know all those symptoms would be connected. Even things like IBS, for example. My IBS got so much worse when my hormones weren't right, and that's definitely something that no one has been able to tell me about before.
Yeah, and that's really important. We're doing some work with a professor of gastroenterology actually, and she didn't realise that there were estrogen and testosterone receptors on our gut. And so of course it affects the way our bowels work, it affects the gut microbes as well. And so I mean, I developed Balance app because I wanted to allow women to be empowered, which is so appropriate on today, being International Women's Day. But women can take control of their health, their destiny, their future health as well, but only if they've got the right knowledge. So obviously the app can help with that. Some of you might already be aware that today we've launched Balance Plus, which the plus bit is actually really helping to improve your health and well-being even more. So looking at how exercise, how sleep, how nutrition, how your whole well-being can improve. So we've got some really great experts, but we've also got access to webinars. But in addition, we've got access to consultations where we videoed with actresses, so people can see what they should get out of their 10-minute consultation. And I'm hoping people will find these really empowering, because I know myself, when I was trying to get HRT from my GP, which I hasten to add I couldn't get, I found it very scary, because I think I've got 10 minutes. How am I going to do this? How am I going to really convince them that's what I need? And so if you can see how the narrative should go in your consultation, I'm hoping it gives women more strength and energy so that they can really ask for their own hormones back.
Yeah, and it's been really useful for me to just like really go through all my symptoms, know exactly which ones were more impacting me and which were a bit less, and you know, really write down everything before each appointment, thanks to the app, so that I could really just ask the right questions and just mention about 20 symptoms, all in order of importance, and then get, you know, hopefully a good outcome out of the appointment. So yeah, it is really scary, especially if you trust that someone else will lead the consultation, which you know, they're not going to be able to know what your symptoms are.
Yeah, and so certainly the app, just to reassure those people that are listening, Balance app is always going to be free. The Plus bit is paid for because we need some extra resources to improve Balance and the balance-menopause.com website further. And one of the things that Gail, who's the CEO, and the team are really committed to doing is to increase the spread of information to every woman. So that means every woman in every culture, every country, every background. And we know there's a real problem with women being able to access information. Sometimes it's language barriers, but often it's cultural barriers as well. We really want to increase the languages that we use because so many women are missing out because they are unable to have access to the information that's right for them.
Yeah, I think this is super important. Surely, even just coming from Italy, I encountered lots of this sort of culture difference and kind of misinformation there. I wasn't even prescribed HRT because of my age, so it had to be my mum's name at the time, which was absolutely scary if you think about it. So yeah, it's a lot, you know, lots of countries still have a lot to come, like compared to the UK.
Yes, because everyone tells us that UK are doing really well, and I think we're doing really badly actually. We know that only around 14% of menopausal women receive HRT. In some areas it's a lot less, so areas of low socioeconomic classes is less. Some areas it's even as low as 2%. I was looking at some figures recently. But Italy, I don't know what their figures are, but it's probably below 10%. And we always think Italians are very healthy, and of course they are because they eat so much better than we do as a nation. They do look after themselves. But menopausal Italian women are not going to be as healthy, are they?
No, exactly. No. And there's a lot of stigma, really. I've tried to speak to people who are still there, and yeah, they don't talk about it at all. You know, we think here there's a lot of stigma, but there's, yeah, it can be even worse. I guess it's very much a cultural thing. You know, just women's health is just not talked about at all. It's just one of those things you have to suffer in silence. And yeah, that's not fair.
So that's why hashtag break the bias is so important. And talking about hashtags, there's another hashtag that Balance is absolutely committed for, which is hashtag I am menopausal, which was a brainchild of Gail, the COO. And it's about getting lots of amazing pictures of the most incredible women out there who are menopausal and having the hashtag I am menopausal in their own language as well. And I know you've been part of this as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been really great. It's lovely to see people from all over the world telling their stories, because one of the things you really feel is alone if you're going through this, especially if you're a bit younger. But there's an incredible community online, and yeah, definitely we can support each other. So yeah, it's been really lovely to join that, and definitely interesting to hear everyone's story, and just know that, yeah, we are on the right track. You know, the more we talk about it, the better hopefully things will be. Like I'd love to think that, you know, when I'm in the sort of correct menopausal age, things will be a lot easier, and yeah, I won't have to sort of fight to stay on HRT for as long as I want.
And do you find that talking about it and sort of breaking the stigma has enabled women to get help? Do you feel already that you've been able to help others?
Yeah, definitely. It's been absolutely great. I'm also working with Daisy Network to organise some meetups and fundraisers for women who've gone through premature menopause. And it's just been so great to meet other people, to share their stories and mine, and just know that at least, you know, I've been dealt this hand. Like, I want to do something about it. I want to try at least help other people feel less lonely, and yeah, at least like know what they're going through, because really it's a unique experience, I guess, especially when you're so young. And yeah, just having someone else to share it with can be really making a huge difference.
I think it is so important because most people who are either perimenopausal or menopausal do feel very isolated, they feel very alone. Symptoms of low self-worth, reduced self-esteem can be very common. And so then it can be quite hard to reach out to people because you don't know the questions to ask. You feel that you're the only person going through these symptoms. And so to have a network of people, and actually social media has been incredible for that, hasn't it? Because it allows us to reach people that we would have never been able to reach before. And actually some people are more comfortable telling strangers than their best friend or their family member something, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's incredible. It really, it's a place where you can even find like real information, not just obviously friendship, which has also been incredible. But yeah, I think for lots of people it's just about finding people in the right sort of phase of their lives, you know, going through exactly the same thing, and really just supporting each other, and feeling more empowered to then speak about this with, if you like, their whole family and like with their colleagues, because I certainly wouldn't have had the confidence had I not known enough about it myself. And knowing where to look for information and that there was someone else dealing with this really, really helped me to kind of know exactly what's going on and why I want to speak about it as well.
Yeah, so, which is so important. So there are lots of really good resources for people with early menopause POI to get, and it's very important that they can try and find resources that are written for young people. And there's a lot of parallels obviously with older people who are menopausal, but there are a lot of differences. We've already said the dose of HRT is often different. The health risks actually are more real, and it's more important that people receive treatment. And the risks of HRT just are not there in young people as well. So it's very important that people see it not just as a treatment that they can have if they're feeling really bad, but actually an essential hormonal treatment regardless of whether they have symptoms. And we know that probably around 25% of women with POI don't have any symptoms or have very mild symptoms. So it's really important that women are receiving information. So certainly on the Balance website, we've got a booklet specifically for young women. On the Balance app, when you register, it will ask you some questions, and you'll have some information sort of tailor-made for you as well. And there's lots of information, and also there's the community section on the app, which people are really helping each other, which is really important.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, and it makes you feel accepted, I guess, and sort of part of something. And knowing, I think, that there is a lot still to change and a lot of potentially impact to make, actually makes this worth it. You know, we've got something to do with with all this information, with all this like first-hand experience. And yeah, hopefully in the future people will just know exactly what it is straight away, not go through 10 years of, you know, pain being diagnosed.
Yes, and I think that's where the power of helping each other can really make a difference, because it's very difficult, and I completely understand when someone goes to see a healthcare professional, as you have, who said, no, you're on the wrong dose or you need to reduce, then how are you going to argue with someone? And no one wants to argue with their doctors or their healthcare practitioner, but also every physician or clinician wants to do the best of their ability. They wouldn't be doing the job if they didn't care. It's not actually their fault they've been given wrong information, and it's really hard to change people. But actually, if we've got enough patients telling us what we're doing is outdated, then eventually we'll crumble as healthcare professionals and say, okay, I think I need to update my knowledge. And so it's really important that as patients, we're all singing off the same hymn book. And this is really awful, actually. When I was a medical student and a young postgraduate, a junior doctor, when I was told about what to do if someone came to see me who didn't have periods, there were a few things I was told I had to do. I had to make sure they weren't pregnant, so I had to do a routine pregnancy test. I think that's very sensible. I had to make sure that they didn't have an eating disorder, because if women are very slim and underweight, their often periods stopped. And I had to make sure that they didn't have something like PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, which can cause quite irregular periods and scanty periods. Make sure that they weren't on contraception, so something like the progesterone-only pill or the Mirena coil can stop periods. And then I was told to just reassure them. That was it. And it was, no one mentioned the menopause. And I think in my 20s, if I'd someone had said to me, could young people become menopausal? I probably, as a doctor, would have said no, don't think so, unless they had their ovaries removed. And so actually to change 6 years at medical school, you know, a few years as undergraduate training, to change my perception is quite hard, isn't it, if one person tells me. But if I've got an army of people telling me, then actually I've got to sit up and realise. And that's what I'm hoping that we can all do, working together. We've also very lucky now, we've got the guidelines, so NICE guidance are very clear about the management of POS, which is great. We've got the International Menopause Society IMS guidelines. Again, they've got some good information about POS. And then we've got ESHRI, which is European guidance specifically on POI. These are a few years old now, but they're still very clear, very easy. So if people are still struggling, they can actually download and print off those guidelines as well to help healthcare professionals.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important that we actually do some work ourselves, really to share this information, as you said. And yeah, I'll always bring these links with me to future appointments. Let's see if we can really, yeah, just all together mentioning this to our medical professionals, change some of their, yeah, outdated, as you said, ideas, really, because yeah, they surely can help more people.
Yeah. So we all need to download Balance app. We need to share it with everybody. We need to create a health report within the Balance app. And this is where you have your symptoms, your menopause symptom questionnaire, and any past history that might be relevant. And it creates this health report that you can download and you can either print off or email to your healthcare professional. So we should be doing that. We should have a look at Balance Plus. There's a 7-day free trial, so we're not committing ourselves. We can have a look and see what we think. And then we can go onto the balance-menopause.com website, and we can advise also our relatives and our work colleagues to go onto the website as well, because there's information for partners, there's information about workplace, there's a huge amount of information there for people. And then also, we can, as menopausal women, be part of the hashtag I Am Menopausal campaign, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. Let's join all of these opportunities, and yeah, just talk about it with everyone, as you said, friends, family, really, co-workers. I think, you know, one day when everyone knows about it and knows how, you know, important our own hormones are really for our health, things will really be different. And yeah, we can aim at really being equal finally.
Absolutely, even beyond equal, we can rule the world more than men. That would be an amazing place to be, wouldn't it? So
That's it.
I'm really grateful for you spending your time, and I'm grateful for the people that are listening and being part of this journey with us. Every day is a new day. Every day we have different challenges, but we also have different achievements. And today I'm really trying to focus on the achievements that we've had. It's not just me on my own. I've got the most amazing team of people, not just with Balance, but also through my not-for-profit and also with my clinic as well. And I've got some incredible family and friends who are propping me up on the outside as well. So from behalf of all of us together, I'd just like to say again, you know, happy International Women's Day, and let's see what the future brings. And I'm really excited to see what happens over the next year with all this work we're doing. So thank you ever so much. I know we haven't answered all the questions, but I hope we've answered a lot. And the questions I have read, the answers are available either on the app or on the website. So I'm going to sign off now, but thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Louise, for having me as well.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, happy International Women's Day, everyone.
All right, thank you, bye.